Hi, this is Mashnu, and we have here an interesting endgame position. It's white to move in this position, and it comes from a game that I just played this morning on the internet. It's a blitz game, and well, as you know, normally I don't publish any blitz games on the internet on YouTube, because there are often many tactical mistakes in blitz games, and that doesn't make it really very instructive. But this time I thought that this could be very interesting to look at this endgame, because actually what's happening, I was playing black here, and I'm very happy with this knight that I have on d4, very strong knight, attacking his queen at the moment on e2. On the other hand, the advantage of white is of course the domination of this e-file and a pass pawn on d5. Now this last thing, this pass pawn on d5, the question is this a strong pawn or can it be a weakness? It's not that very clear. It actually all depends on how white continues this position. So what's of course going on right now is that white must make a move with his queen that is attacked. There is no tactical idea like knight to e4 attacking my queen, because I take with check on e2, so he must move his queen. And actually the main question is it wise or not for white to offer the trade of queens with queen to e5? To answer this question, we need to evaluate the endgame that arises then. So that's actually my question to you. What do you think? Should white simplify the position by playing queen to e5, trade queens and going to the endgame? Or should white avoid the trade of queens by playing, for example, queen to e3? Now the game continued. By the way, my opponent was a player rated 2200 on ChessCube, so the ChessCube rating, and he played the move queen to e5. And when I saw this, I thought this must be a mistake, because he's actually giving away the control over the e-file. That's what happens after queen trade. So this was not a correct decision. It would have been better to keep the queens on the board for white. I took the queen, he took back with the rook, and now I played rook to e8, wanting to trade the rooks. If I manage to trade queens and rooks, then I will be left with a strong knight against a weaker knight, so my position will be better. Now black didn't take the rook on e8, he played f4 defending his rook, supporting it, and I continued with f6. Now the rook must make a decision, and since he didn't want to trade the rooks, he went with the rook to e4, but then of course I can trade it. Rook takes, knight takes. Now knight to e2 check and capture on the f-pawn is a possibility, but on the other hand this knight is attacking f6, so I preferred to defend my f6 pawn with two ideas. One of them is to give a check on e2 and then take on f4, and the other idea is to play f5, chasing away this knight, so the square d6 becomes available for my king, so I can attack this pawn on d5. He played king to f2, I played f5, he played knight to c3, and now I didn't want to play right now king to d6. It would have been a good move, but what I wanted to do is to make use of the fact that I have a pawn majority now here on the queen side. It's 3 against 2. So what I want to do is to create a pass pawn here on the queen side, and that's why I played a6, preparing to play b5. He continued with king to e3. Now I placed my king on d6, he played g4, and I continue with my own plan of playing b5. He took on b5, I took back, and here the position of white becomes actually really bad. I'm threatening perhaps to play b4 and then capture on d5, and white doesn't have any good way to use this pawn on d5. It has become a very weak pawn. Another threat, by the way, that I have in this position is to give a check on c2 and then bring my knight to b4, where it attacks this weak pawn on d5. Now my opponent, to prevent me from playing b4, he played b4 himself, but this is then totally lost. I could have taken on b4, and then we end up with a winning endgame, a winning pawn endgame for me. Another way to win it is simply to give the check on c2 and then capture this pawn on b4 with check. After king to e3, I took on d5, and here my opponent resigned, since the knights are going to be traded and the pawn endgame is totally won. Now let's return to the initial position. That's actually the most important thing here. This is actually a very bad move. It leads to an endgame that is better for black because of this very strong knight on d4 and the weakness of white on d5. This pass pawn is not longer a strength, it's a weakness now. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time on YouTube. Goodbye.